Hello everyone, my name is NecroVMX, welcome to my channel, and you are listening to Potato Cast, and oh boy. So as you might have noticed, I did not upload anything this past week, and if you follow me on Twitter or Facebook, you might know why, because I did post on both of those social media platforms, some pretty sparse updates on what exactly was going on. And this, I was actually planning the next Potato Cast, which was going to be last Saturday or Friday, maybe. Friday or Saturday, I was going to do one where I was going to tell, a few stories. I guess we'll get to that at some other time, but let me tell you the story that is really fresh in my mind, which is the reason that I hadn't uploaded everything, what I've been through this past week, which has just been, completely fucking cray-cray. But first, let's go and read your questions and comments from last time. So, let's see. Alex Shannon said, I found that the ideal way to play Perfect Dark on PC is to choose the dual controller option, and I know how... God. I know how to do it. That doesn't mean that I want to do it. It's like, I've been using emulators since, 1997, but people act like they're going to tell me how to do it. Let's skip that comment. Nick Jackson says, Spaceballs I'm not the biggest fan of either, partially because I've watched the film so many times I've gotten sick of it, and partially because I think a lot of the film's humor has lost a lot of value. I used to watch BHD all the time, but his content has massively gone down the crapper, in my opinion. I have to actually agree with you, even though I listed him as one of my favorite YouTubers. I feel that recently he's fallen into a trap that a lot of YouTubers have fallen into about just complaining about YouTube. Like, how many clickbait titles has he done with, YouTube is going to delete my channel, YouTube is shutting me down? Like, no such thing is happening. A lot of people are saying right now that YouTube is broken. YouTube is not broken. YouTube is working as intended, and that's the problem. There are some definite problems with the way it's being run, but it is not broken. It is working as intended. There is no glitch. They're just fucking over people, and you could either just accept it and just sort of do your own thing and just try to, continue, or you could, try to clickbait and try to follow trends and whatnot. And I feel that, BHD has kind of fallen into that, and also the next option, which would be just, to bitch about it so much. And there's a lot of YouTubers I know who got affected about this. Unfortunately, most of them are black guys. It seems that... YouTube really doesn't want black guys to have a voice, and they've really fucked over a lot of black YouTubers. So many of them that I know have been fucked over, and, BHD, I don't know him personally like I know some other YouTubers, but, I feel bad for a lot of them, but a lot of them fall into that trap of just, complaining about it. And you can't really do that because people get tired of hearing about it. YouTube's not broken. There is no glitch. It's working as intended. And I do agree that BHD's content used to be better than what it is. But the thing is, he has so many videos that a lot of times I'll just watch older ones that I've never seen. So, yeah, I do agree with you on that. He says, do you have a favorite animated show that is not anime? Well, I don't watch anime, so any animated show that I watch is... not anime. Definitely, The Simpsons. I mean, talk me out of picking The Simpsons. I also really like South Park, and surprisingly, I like American Dad, even though I really just dislike Seth MacFarlane on so many levels. I feel especially after he left as showrunner, I mean, he's still on the show as a voice actor, but he doesn't write for it or come up with ideas or anything, and I think the show has just gotten really better. I fucking hate his other shows, like Family Guy's trash. The Cleveland Show, which thankfully isn't around anymore, was trash. The Cleveland Show was a garbage fire, but I really like The Simpsons. That's the big one. Let's see. I'm not a DC fan, but I absolutely love Batman Beyond, and that's high on my list of favorite animated shows. Oh, so now if you're talking about of all time, obviously it's still The Simpsons, but I mean, Batman the Animated Series was just a great show. I used to watch that all the time. Come home from school, and that would be on. By the way, your audio sounds a lot better in this episode. Keep your head up, bud. I don't, I haven't changed anything with audio, so I don't know. Sometimes it just changes. Okay, so here's Alex Shannon again. Fuck P2W. Oh, pay to win. And fuck loot boxes and fuck that fucking cancer. Literal cancer, I mean. It gets to fuck off. Shitloads of people in my area have been dying of cancer. I've been hearing from loads of people elsewhere about cancer cases, too, and just about everyone who lives here is already sick of cancer. Too many people, too often. What the fuck? Why does everyone have cancer? Because it's a pretty widespread disease, or a pretty wide. You got to understand that cancer is a blanket term for many different diseases, and they say that almost everyone at some point in their life will have some sort of cancer. It won't always be malignant, it won't always be dangerous, but it's just one of those things. The problem is that everything causes it. So it used to be, if you're going back to human history, that we would die off well before we would die of cancer, because you do see those sad cases of children getting cancer and dying of cancer, and that's always sad, and that's probably been happening throughout all of human history, and probably will happen for all of human history. But the average is that we're living a lot longer. We don't have to worry about getting killed by a saber-toothed tiger or something, so eventually something's going to kill us off, and cancer's pretty good at that. Zombie Yushu says, I lost a family member to cancer. Is it possible that this cancer is vulnerable to the measles? I don't know. Oh, I think you might have seen an episode of House or something. Yeah, they're not... I don't know, man. I don't think so. Let's move on here. The anime fan says, #potato. It's not that English isn't my first language. It's just my typing is shit, and I don't proofread. I think he means proofread. Please proofread or proofread. If you want to proofread, that's great. They get a professor to read it. So he has numbered questions here, just two of them. Number one, since we're in the 10th year of the MCU, is there a moment or plot do you wish was resolved? Yeah, I mean, there's a few. I want to find out what happened to Red Skull. I want Leader to come back. I understand they're probably not going to do another standalone Hulk movie, partly because Universal is still somewhat tied up with the distribution rights to a Hulk movie, and partly because Incredible Hulk kind of underperformed compared to other Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. I think it performed the least out of any of them. And it wasn't even that bad of a film. It was actually pretty good. I liked it better than, for example, I liked it better than Iron Man 3. But I liked it better than Avengers Age of Ultron. But Incredible Hulk also is one of those movies that, gets a little better each time you watch it, kind of like Iron Man 3 as well. But I gotta say that, I do want to find out what happened to Leader. I want to find out what happened to Red Skull. And also, I want the Netflix, sort of sub-universe and the main MCU to interact with each other. I couldn't care about the other television shit. Like, I couldn't care less about Inhumans or Cloak and Dagger or, any other Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., any other bullshit. But the Netflix stuff, they always reference the Avengers in those shows. They always talk about The Incident, which was, the events of the Avengers, where they mention Tony Stark or whatever. But even if we can get some sort of acknowledgement that the Defenders are a thing, or that the Punisher is a thing in the MCU. I mean, maybe in a Spider-Man sequel, Spider-Man is a street-level hero like the Defenders are. I would love to see some sort of interaction there. Number two, do you think, given how far VR has come, that some respect should be given to Virtual Boy for how innovative it was back in its day? The Virtual Boy... See, here's the thing. VR, I couldn't care less about it. I think it's bullshit. I think it's a terrible way to play games. I have like really no interest in it. All it really is a screen up in your face and some motion sensors. And yeah, it's improved a lot, but the Virtual Boy had nothing to do with virtual reality. Virtual reality was kind of a craze at the time. There were some movies about it, there was TV shows about it. There was a couple of really low-tech virtual reality games, like in arcades and stuff. I actually played one day at this really huge arcade in like Long Island or something. But the Virtual Boy, I mean, other than the fact that it goes on your face, it really is, it's just a 3D display. The Virtual Boy lent more to the 3DS than it did to the virtual reality, like what do you call that thing? I can't remember what any of them are called. I'm actually very tired right now. But because that's what it was. It was 3D without glasses, by showing two different displays, one display going to one eye and one display going to the other eye. And the way they did it back then was with red LEDs and the thing being right up in your face, so it basically could easily just be one image to one eye and one image to another eye, whereas the 3DS uses facial tracking software and all kinds of things like that. So actually, I think that the Virtual Boy had more to do with 3D without glasses than it had to do with virtual reality. It just was called Virtual Boy due to the fact that it was kind of a craze at the time. And you also got to remember that the Virtual Boy that came out was actually a prototype, and then Gunpei Yokoi, who had created the prototype, did not want them to release it. He was still working on it. He wanted to improve it. So, the Virtual Boy was kind of a mess. I don't think that respect should be given to it in that sense, but maybe respect should be given to it in the sense that it might have inspired the idea for the 3DS. Let's see, BioPhoenix says, wow, what a messed up story about the Thunderball guy. Or Mad Pack, right? I guess it's not a surprise with how nutty he was. What are your thoughts on the current Cinemassacre? I don't have any thoughts on it. I always enjoyed Cinemassacre's content. I don't think it's been any better or worse recently. So, yeah. I personally find James should retire the nerd. As much as I had fun with his content over the years, I think the writing of his new episodes has not been as funny, and I vastly prefer James being himself in a video talking about horror stuff, etc. But that's just me. That is just you, because I think his episodes have been great, especially since he's not doing them as often. He did do a whole bunch near the end of the year, a sort of treat for all his viewers, but instead of feeling like he's on a schedule and feeling like he has to do a nerd video every other week or whatever, he's doing them when he has time to, and he's taking more time to do them, and they're better. So I have to very much disagree with you on that. All right, Heisensoul says, #Potato Necro, I'm sorry to hear about the news concerning your father. As always, I wish him well. I know how hard it can be when a parent is sick. On February 7th, my dad had a second surgery in 9 months. Last May, he had a quadruple bypass, and this time he had surgery to stop fluid from leaking into his lung. He's home, but for several months, November through February, it was tough, and it seemed like he was back in the hospital with fluid buildup in his left lung again. The first 2 weeks of January, he spent in the hospital with a big strain on my mom, brother, and I. Right now, as of this writing, he's in better shape than he's been in a long time. I really wish the best to your father, and that he makes a full recovery. I was recently talking to someone on Facebook, and I thought this could be something interesting to ask you. Who do you believe to be the most overrated band of all time? The two that we could come up with were the Beatles and U2. Me personally, while I don't dislike the Beatles, I was always a Rolling Stones guy, and I think U2 became overrated after about 1987. Also, before I continue, thanks for the thoughts on my dad. I will be giving kind of an update on him later, because it does relate to the story that I'm going to tell in this episode. I don't think the Beatles are really overrated. I think they're actually kind of almost underrated, because they were kind of like the first pop band, and they really changed the way that pop music works, and then the way we consume music, and the way that a musical career goes. They, separating them from their songs, of which the majority of them I do like, what they did for the music industry and the business in general cannot be understated. I actually would say the Rolling Stones are incredibly overrated. I agree with you on U2, by the way. I think that they were good at first, but after a while they just became like really pretentious and up their own assholes, and boring too. They're a long way from albums like Achtung Baby or The Joshua Tree, which was probably their best record. But the Rolling Stones, I just can't stand the Rolling Stones. I think they're boring and dull and just rote, and honestly, they're the kind of band that they come on. Because I do, when I do listen to the radio, which is not very often, it's usually classic rock radio, or, I'd rather just throw on Pandora, and I do have a lot of stations on Pandora. Some of them are keyed to classic rock, and the Rolling Stones get that quick skip, thumbs down, don't ever play that shit again. I just don't like them at all. So sorry to shit on them when you were saying you're more of a Stones guy, but personally I can't stand them. But I do agree with you on U2. Also, one other thing I was wondering, since I mentioned dogs in my last post, is there a specific breed of dog you ever wanted to own? I've always wanted to own a bulldog. I always feel like they have such colorful personalities. As always, I wish you and your family and your father the best, Necro. For the longest time, I always wanted to own a pit bull. Now we have 2 pit bulls, and let me tell you, I wasn't living with my parents when they got the pit bulls. I was living on my own, but having to move back in with them, I'm spending a hell of a lot of time with these 2 boys, and they have become incredibly attached to me, to the point where they just, honestly, it seems like they would rather spend time with me than with my parents, which is kind of crazy. And I'm very attached to them as well. I'm very glad to have pit bulls around me, because I think they're fantastic dogs. We had Rottweilers before that. We had Aries and Xena, and then we had Aria, and all 3 of those were Rottweilers. And when my parents, when Aria died, my mother was, very distraught, and they were living alone. Obviously, they didn't have me there, and I told my mother, I don't want to hear no bullshit about you don't want another dog. You need a dog. I don't like the idea of you in that house, you and Dad alone with no dog. and just walking around being sad, and especially since there's so much stuff in the house that is related to dogs. There's pictures of dogs everywhere. They built a run for the dogs. You know, you got to have a dog. So I was actually the one that suggested Pitbull because I always wanted Pitbull. My sister has a Pitbull. He's fantastic. I actually have a few videos with my sister's dogs up. You know, they're kind of old videos. He's actually still around. He's like 13, 14 years old, and just, you know, really arthritic and slow-moving, but still, you know, behaves like a puppy. So I think that, you know, pit bulls are fantastic. Let's move on. Killa MRIX 98, I don't know how to say that, says, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Wishing you all well. Hope things work out for you guys. Glad he's getting the best care possible. Also, I'm willing to begrudgingly accept your dislike for pineapples and cherries. Don't worry, I at least do not advocate for pineapples on pizza. So long as you don't also tell me you dislike raspberries. Well, I love raspberries, to be honest. Actually, probably my favorite berry, even though I don't think... They're not actually technically berries, I don't think. Which is weird. Raspberries and strawberries are technically not berries, but bananas and avocados and olives are. Just one of those weird things. But out of all the fruits that have the word berry in them, raspberries are my favorite. I love raspberries. Blackberries are good too, but raspberries are better. So no, I love raspberries. If you do well, I'm not going to do anything about it, but I'll probably scowl a lot or something. Well, you need not scowl. Aziz Light, haven't heard from him in a while. He says, #potato, I thought your sister was married to Bobby. My thoughts are with you and your family. I actually don't. I assumed that I had talked about her divorce on YouTube at some point, and that was one of the stories that I was going to tell in the next Potato Cast, and I'll have to remind myself to tell that story. Actually, if you're listening to this, I'd like you to leave a comment reminding me, so that next time, if I forget, that's one of the stories I want to tell, that I could tell that story about what happened between Kristen and Bobby. She is not with Bobby anymore. It hasn't been for a while now. I thought I mentioned it on YouTube, but I do so many videos, and it's just, you know, I can't always remember what I say and what I don't say. So I'll definitely tell the story of how my sister and Bobby split up, which is a real shame, but it needed to happen next time. The Game Master 8 says, hey, Necro, it's good to hear that you're maintaining a positive attitude, all things considered. Here's hoping your dad's chemo goes well. I was actually surprised you were a fan of Larry Bundy Jr., as I'm a fan of his Fact Hunt videos myself. I watch your Hollow Knight videos, and it looks like an awesome game. It's actually that LP that made me ask if the Metroid games were going to have a future as an LP. Take it easy and continue to maintain that positive attitude. Well, I do try my hardest to maintain the positive attitude. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one around here who even attempts to maintain a positive attitude, which kind of really sucks, because then that makes it hard on me. You know, if other people at least tried to stay positive, it would be a lot easier, because positivity feeds on positivity, just like negativity feeds on negativity. It's just kind of tough on that. But, you know, I'm trying. Berserker 0001, and by the way, I need to talk to you, so please IM me on Steam as soon as you can. #potato, man, that's shitty news indeed. Don't surrender, though. Your dad sounds like a right proper hard ass, and I doubt he's going to go down without a fight. How do you feel about the soap-eating fucksock teens now being touted as the voices of reason and should be the ones to change the Second Amendment? Okay, well, here's the thing. Nobody is seriously proposing changing the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, and you got to read what it actually says, is that the right to bear arms in a well-organized militia shall not be denied. Just, you know, going to a Walmart and buying an AK is not bearing arms in a well-organized militia. Okay? That's just buying a gun to buy a gun. And I'm not anti-gun, I really am not, but I do believe that we need to have background checks. We need to have mental health checks. We need to take some accountability, because there are some people who shouldn't have guns. Now, I know the Constitution says the right to bear arms shall not be denied, but it does also say in a well-organized militia. It doesn't say Crazy Pete, who thinks that everybody should die, should have assault rifles. So, you know, there's a really fine line there where, you know, but here's the thing, the teens are the ones who are being affected by this. They're the ones getting shot. So of course they should have a voice. And it's kind of like unfair to say that because you saw teens on YouTube doing something stupid like eating Tide Pods, that applies to all of them, because the vast majority of them are not eating Tide Pods. And to be honest with you, the vast majority of people that I've seen doing this Tide Pod shit are not teenagers, they're adults. So, what I think is that, if somebody is eating soap, I'm not necessarily going to go to them for political discourse. But when we have a problem with school shootings, and we do have a major problem with school shootings, we need to try to do our best to prevent it. And it's not that there's one easy answer, because everybody has an opinion on how to stop it. Some people are saying we should have less guns. Some people are saying we should have more guns. Some people are saying we should have 0 guns. And why not ask the people who are the most affected by this what would make them safe? Because this person who did this was an incredibly troubled person who had ties to white supremacy and terrorist organizations, and had made all sorts of threats toward the school in the past that no one took seriously. And perhaps if it had been taken seriously, and if it had been reflected on the background checks that are run, or at least are supposed to be by law run when somebody purchases a gun, then he would not have had that gun. And that's not to say that he would have not gotten a gun, because here's the thing: if you criminalize, crazy people getting guns, they're just going to buy it off the streets or whatever. They're still going to get it. So that's not a solution. But I don't think we should be denying voices to young people simply because young people can be dumb, because guess what? Anybody can be dumb right now. Squiddledaddle says, #potato. I remember the Thunderball troll. I actually talked to him a few times. Oh man, you have got to get on Steam or Facebook and message me. I really want to hear about that. That was years ago. The videos you made responding to him were pretty entertaining. The situation turned out extremely creepy. Yeah, he's saying that. That's an understatement. And I checked on the song from Vindir you mentioned. Never heard of them before. I was not disappointed. Have you ever heard anything from Nightwish or A Perfect Circle? Of course I have. Actually, Julie's favorite band is Nightwish, so I've definitely heard quite a lot of them. I like Nightwish. I prefer their later stuff over their older stuff. I think their older stuff is a little cheesy. But Perfect Circle, I'm a little ambivalent towards. They're not bad by any means. Actually, they're pretty good, but I'm never in that mood. I gotta listen to The Perfect Circle. So let's move on here. Stormcrow95 says #potato. Vinder's actually next to some bands from Eastern Europe from black metal for me. Good call. Even with things like ambient, Burzum, even with my views heavily clashing with Varg, withstanding each time. Yeah, Varg's a piece of shit. I just have to say he's made great music, but Varg is a piece of shit. And how it got to a point where a friend and I talked about that, keeping things like Dark Throne, Bathory, Celtic Frost, etc. in mind. Oh, Celtic Frost is great. I especially love the way every record that they do is something completely different. And yeah, I kind of said if you want to include English, then you can to that. Sad to see that with cancer, the fight turned with your dad there. Still quietly on the side saying this can hopefully turn this back around. Talk about a total hope spot there. You're definitely a TV Tropes fan. So am I. If anyone's expected that to be a big turnaround, but I'm on the side that wants to see the turnaround for the better. If only for some positive news this year with how it's kind of been on the taking end of a raw fisting upside down. Wow, you have a way with words. Now for something of a lighter note, top 5 Castlevanias and why. Oh, that's a tough one. Okay, I'm going to go in no particular order here because that's impossible, but I'm going to name 5 Castlevania games that I absolutely love. I'm actually maybe going chronological order. Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse on NES, was actually the first game that I bought with my own money. I had saved up allowance money and birthday money and stuff like that, and went to Toys R Us, and it was $70. And I remember really not being disappointed with Castlevania 3. Played the hell out of it, and it having 4 endings and all these branching paths and everything was really amazing. Super Castlevania 4 on the Super NES was just this amazing experience at the time with the visuals and the visual storytelling. We didn't have a lot of text or voice acting or anything. We had visual storytelling, and it was really, something that Konami excelled at. The music was fantastic. Symphony of the Night. It's not my favorite of the Metroidvania style, but it was the first one to do it. Kind of not counting Simon's Quest. Simon's Quest has a really special place in my heart. I'm not mentioning it because it does have its flaws, but I thought that Symphony of the Night was taking the idea of Simon's Quest and sort of combining it with Metroid and doing this, new kind of thing that really was amazing at the time. You know, well, I do think that games like Aria of Sorrow and Order of Ecclesia were better than Symphony of the Night. I should mention that that was the first one. Lords of Shadow, fantastic game. I'm sure you saw my Let's Play. Really great reboot, really great alternate take on Castlevania. And for the last one, for 5, let's see, what am I going to mention here? There's so many of them, and I like all of them, and I want to kind of, you know, mention a bunch of like different types of Castlevanias. But for the last one, I actually will say Aria of Sorrow, just because it's my favorite Metroidvania. Number 2, favorite tank of any kind? I couldn't give a shit, man. I think tanks are kind of bullshit. I don't understand why we still make them. They're not really that useful in modern warfare. And number 3, favorite dog breeds and why? Well, actually, I kind of answered that earlier when I talked about pit bulls. I talked about Rottweilers. I like big dogs. I really do. I like a big dog. Like I'm gonna go down. I don't want to scoop up a dog in my hands and he's like, you know, I'm gonna give him a big hug. I want to play with him on a rough house. You know, I like big dogs. Like Rotties and pit bulls are my favorite. You know, I like Doberman. I like German Shepherds. You know, just like if it's a bigger dog, it's probably a dog I like. Let's move on here. Let's see. Nenson Dubois, this is the last one. Hashtag PotatoCast. Sorry to hear that about your dad. I hope he gets better and best wishes to you and your family. I know what it is like to lose a relative to cancer and it's really horrific. Also, damn it, that black metal dude dying at such a young age. You're talking, of course, about Volfar. I haven't heard of him, but I'll definitely check it out if I can spell the name. I actually replied to you with the spelling. So you should check that out if you haven't already. That Ramat Pack sounds like a real nutter. I like pineapples and ham on pizza. Cherries, I can't see working with pizza. Well, I don't think anybody puts cherries on pizza. I was just mentioning that as a fruit that I don't like because it's too sweet. Also, do you like Iron Butterfly? Actually, which is funny, and you're not going to believe me. You're going to think I'm full of shit, but I was actually listening to Iron Butterfly when you posted your comment. Because I was in the kitchen with Mom. I think I was washing dishes or something, and my mom came in doing this. Dun 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 dun. And I'm like, and then I said, and I got a vida, honey. So I was like, now it's in my head. Now I have to listen to it. And I was playing a bunch of records. I played like News of the World by Queen and a bunch of other stuff. And I was very in a very 70s mood. And I played Iron Butterfly, which I think In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida actually came out in the 60s, but it had that. It basically they ushered in the 70s sound of heavy metal with an In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, which was a crazy album. You know, along with like Uriah Heep and a couple other late 60s acts, Led Zeppelin. Yeah, I really do like Iron Butterfly. So that's all the questions and comments. Let me tell you what the hell's been going on. So you might have heard that there was a big storm, or 2 big storms that came through here. The Northeast got slammed by a type of storm which is called a nor'easter, which is basically like it's a nor'easter is essentially like a winter hurricane. It's snow and wind and ice and just like a lot of wind. And we knew there was and it's crazy how nutty the weather's been because it has actually been really warm. There were some days where it was like in the high 70s. It felt like late spring. We were outside. We were wearing, it was like t-shirt and shorts weather, and then it started to get cold again, which is fine. And there's this old saying that I never hear anybody say this anymore, but there's this old saying that I remember as a child about March. It comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb. Well, let me tell you, March came in like a whole gang of lions, like, and they were pissed off. They all had thorns up in their shit. They were angry. They had rabies. I don't even know if lions could have rabies, but these motherfuckers had rabies. So, we knew about the storm ahead of time, and all the weather reports were all saying that it was going to be no big deal for the specific location that we were at. There were other places that were going to get hit hard, but we were going to get hit, relatively light. It was going to be a lot of rain, a little bit of snow. We were actually projected on my app on my phone said 1 to 3 inches of snow. And on the television, it was saying 1 to 4 inches, which is, that's semantics, splitting hairs. So Friday morning, I wake up, it's already snowing, and there was already like 2 or 3 inches on, and this is something that's supposed to go on all day and all night, And we knew that, it was worse than normal. It actually had started, before Friday morning. It actually started Thursday night as rain, and then on top of that was the snow. We actually got about a foot of snow. A little more than a foot of snow, actually, in that storm. But it was the wind. So basically, okay, we're doing the thing, letting the dogs out. We had breakfast. And then basically right after breakfast, as I'm sitting in, the chair that I like in the living room, drinking coffee and looking at my phone, the power goes out. And then I was like, oh, there it goes, there goes the power. And then like 2 seconds later it came back on. I'm like, and there it goes. And I said, I think it's going to flicker like that for a while. And, we're just like, oh, well, that sucks, And it went off again and went on again. It kept flickering, and then it went off, and it stayed off. So now we're just like, okay, whatever. So we're just like, what can you really do when there's a power out and a storm, and you're where we are in the country like this? It's like, what am I going to do? I can't really do much. There's not enough light to read because it's storming. There's not natural light. Can't obviously turn the lights on. Could look at my phone, but like I'm like I don't know when it's going to come back on, and you don't want to run down the charge, especially my phone because I'm the only one that has service here. My parents have T-Mobile. I have Verizon. Verizon has good service here. T-Mobile doesn't. So you think, why do they have T-Mobile? Well, they just enable Wi-Fi calling, and they call through the Wi-Fi. But now that there's no internet, that takes out the modem and the router, and there's no Wi-Fi, and therefore no phone calling. So we're sort of like in a black hole at this point, no communication, no nothing, and it goes on and on. Several hours go by all day. We wound up going upstairs to my parents' bedroom and chilling out up there with the dogs. Heat rises. It was warmer up there. And it was rough. The dogs made it rough because they got to go outside to do their business. And every time you open the door, you're letting more cold air in, you're letting more hot air out. And then we don't have water to flush the toilets. That's a whole thing. And my mom's going out and scooping up snow in a bucket to bring into the house and melt. So this is going on all day Friday. And we're all taking bets on, like, when is the power going to come on? And I was like, I think it's going to come on like 3 a.m., And we're going to wake up and there's going to be power, but it's going to suck. It's going to be cold. So now we have no heat, because we have, not electric heat, gas heat, but it's powered by electricity, the thermostat and all that. So, this sucks. But right before I went to bed, I looked at, online, like outage map, and it said that this power out might last 24 to 48 hours. That's 1 to 2 days. And I was just like, my mother's just like, oh, don't even tell me that and this and that, and they start to get stressed out. I wound up going to bed. It was really cold, but I bundled up with blankets and, I think I had a robe on, and everything. So it, woke up, still no power. So here's the thing. There's trees down everywhere. The storm's now over. There's trees down, there's power lines down, there's transformers that have been destroyed. We got hit in this storm harder than anyone here in Pike County, Pennsylvania. And the thing is, because the roads were so bad due to first rain, which then froze into ice, and then a foot of snow on top of that, and then down power lines, live wires on the ground. There was a guy who drove over some live wires, and his car caught on fire. This is insanity going on here. It's bedlam nonsense, and we still don't have power, obviously. They didn't know how bad it was, so because we have MedEd, and MedEd. I'm going on their website. We're going downstairs and using my parents' car to charge our phones. It's insanity. Everybody's starting to get frustrated. Everybody's starting to get stressed out. Everybody's getting pissy. It doesn't help that my dad has fucking cancer and is in pain, and I'd like to say that he takes it with stoic dignity, or at least quiet grace, but he doesn't. He actually becomes a bit of a pill. So everybody's just sort of, So it's Saturday, and we realize now that this is bad, because I get online, I turn my data on my phone, and I look, and it's saying that we may not have power, and keep in mind it's Saturday, until Wednesday evening. So just think that. We lost power Friday morning. So if you're to count from Friday morning to Wednesday evening, so okay, Friday to Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5 days, really 5.5, because we're talking morning to evening, 5.5 days. Now, something like this happened years and years ago when we first moved from New York City to up here, and there was barely anyone living in this area, and it was, the infrastructure wasn't as good. We had a really bad storm with about 1.5 feet of snow right after Christmas, and we lost power for like 4 days, and we toughed it out at first. We toughed it out, but then like on the last day, which we didn't know was going to be the last day, but we didn't know what was going on. And this is before everybody had cell phones and whatnot. This is, we had dial-up internet at the time. There was no way to get any kind of communication. So, I'm talking 1997 here, my parents took the dogs and went to a hotel in New Jersey, and I went actually next door to where my uncle lives. No longer lives there; he just moved out, and stay there because he had like those camper heaters that run on like a butane tank, and you can run them indoors. And we like kind of camped in, so to speak, and then the power came on like somewhere around 2 a.m. So I was thinking, like, what if it's something like that, and then we're worried about like like the puppies and everything, and how cold is the house gonna get? So it's like 50 degrees in the house. My mother's like, we have to get out. We have to get out of here and like go and see about getting some kind of food or something, or something, or maybe we can get a space heater or something, See, the thing is, my parents have this driveway that's really long and quite steep. So my mother tries to get out. She has a Jeep. Can't get out in the Jeep. She gives up rather quickly. My father probably could have made it, but he's sick with cancer. He can't be doing all this shit. So, then my sister's boyfriend comes by. He walks over. He lives with my sister at my grandmother's house, and he walked over here, and me and him had to shovel the entire fucking driveway, which is like, I want you to, if any of you guys live in the country, you might know what like a big driveway is like, when you have like an acre of land, and it's steep. So we go out there. I'm out there for hours in the freezing ass cold. I'm tired. I haven't slept really. We went to bed, but I barely slept because it was too cold to sleep. I'm frustrated. I'm now soaking, sopping wet. Everything's pissing me off. My sister's boyfriend's being kind of a negative guy. He's complaining a lot. I'm losing my resolve. Then my sister comes by at some point. She had actually gotten stuck at work. They had power at work, but the roads were all closed. She actually had to sleep at her job. And then had, because her car went off the road, and it was a whole thing, and then she had to get a ride back and whatnot. So it took hours, but we get the entire driveway shoveled, and then and between the three of us, we only had one good shovel, which really sucked. The other two snow shovels really sucked. So anyway, then my mom attempts. Actually, I'm actually getting ahead of myself. Before we get the entire thing shoveled, when we only got it partially shoveled, my mom comes out and tries to get the Jeep up. And my Jonathan, my sister's boyfriend, was like, "Why is she coming out now? We're not done." And I'm like, I don't know. And then she tries to get up. She actually gets stuck. So then she goes back inside. We have to dig her car out, and he's attempting and failing to get it out. And now he's like tired. He's walked back and forth between here and my grandmother's house, and I'm like, I'm tired, but I know he's even more tired than I am. So I'm like, you need to stop. Get out of the car. Let me try it. So I get it out of there, and not out of the driveway, but out of where it was stuck. We, me and him and my sister finish up, shoveling the entire driveway, which was now very difficult because my mother had attempted to drive on what snow was left and packed it down. So now it's like, packed down ice. Each of us fell at one point, like I fell, John fell, and my sister fell at one point. We were all fine, but I was very sore the next day, partially due to the fall. I had twisted my ankle. I didn't realize it at first because my feet were so cold I couldn't fucking feel them. But, so, here's the situation. So my sister, she lives at my grandmother's house. She's got herself, my grandmother, her two boys, and her two other boys, her two dogs, and her boyfriend. And we are at this house. There's my parents, there's me, and there are two boys, or two dogs, Getty and Gibbs. And they decide that they're going to stay there because my grandmother has this wood-burning stove that can kind of keep the living room kind of warm, whereas we have nothing. So, my parents they have to get out and get to a hotel, and do that, and get the dogs. And at first, my mom is hilarious because she's always thinking we got to save money, and she says, "We're gonna go to a hotel, and you'll go with them and sleep at Grandma's house, and because they got the wood-burning stuff, and that'll save us some money. Is that okay?" And I'm thinking that is not okay, because how is that going to happen? How are my parents going to handle these two nearly fully grown pit bulls who, they're good boys, but they're very nervous. They're picking up on everybody's negative emotions. My father can't walk them. He's too sick. My mother can't walk the both of them. It's like they realize there's no way. So then, they come to their senses and realize that I'm going to have to come to the hotel. So here's the thing. My sister had looked into it, and she said that everything in the area was booked up because, like, everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's going to a hotel. And everything in the area either didn't have power or they were booked up. So my sister says we have to go to either New York or New Jersey. We're near both states. We're at the point where New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey are all very close to each other, and you can get to both New York and New Jersey very quickly. So, we don't want to go to New York. My mother's like, let's look into Jersey. So I'm like, we're driving. We get in the car. We get the car out. We packed without having a place to go to. We get the dogs in the back of the Jeep. My sister took no care in how to put everybody's bags in, so I'm like really smushed in the back seat. We're driving over these roads that haven't been maintained or plowed or anything, and taking all these alternate routes because a lot of the roads were closed to get off this goddamn mountain and into town. And I'm on the phone trying to find, a hotel, and I'm calling this place, I'm calling that place. No, we have no vacancy or this and that. So I wind up trying to call this one hotel, but I can't find the number on their website. So instead of that, I found a call us button, but it actually routed me to Expedia, and I didn't realize at first that I was talking to an Expedia agent. But once I realized I was like, oh, she's going to do it for me. So, the problem is this Expedia agent had like the weirdest, craziest accent I'd ever heard. I'd never heard somebody talk like this. I think she was from like Mongolia or something. Like I'm just going to give you an example. At one point, when we eventually did find a hotel, it was on a place called World's Fair Drive, and she's trying to give me the address, but she's trying to say World's Fair, and she's saying Wood Sayre. And I'm like, what? Could you spell it? And I'm like, oh my God, just email the information. So, we're looking in places in Jersey, and here's the thing. My dad, as of Monday, because we're thinking we're going to have to stay till Wednesday, as of Monday, has radiation treatment. He has a full week of radiation treatment Monday through Friday, and then 2 days off, and then another round of radiation Monday through Friday, which is this coming week. So we're actually thinking, why don't we get a place near the radiation place, which is about 2 hours away? So that'll at least save time and gas for them going to the cancer center. So the town that the cancer center is called Baskin Ridge. Now, I know we were going to Sloan Kettering, which is in New York City, but the radiation, because it's a little closer to us, we had options. We can go to Sloan or we can go to places affiliated with them, and we chose this place in Baskin Ridge. It's Baskin Ridge, New Jersey, that is. So we look for places in Baskin Ridge, and she can't find anything that A, has vacancy, and B, is pet friendly. And C, is not going to break the bank. So finally, my mother says, well, check Somerset, because she had heard that there's a pretty sizable town called Somerset near Baskin Ridge. It's actually about 20 minutes away. She finds a hotel that's pet friendly in Somerset called Extended Stay America. I book it over the phone. We get there. It takes 2 hours. It's a 2-hour drive. So we get there, and we check it. And let me just say, by the way, this place was wonderful. I only had one complaint, and that was their free breakfast was really whack. We thought free breakfast, it was gonna be like a continental breakfast, like a buffet of eggs or something. And then they said, oh, it's grab and go. So we heard grab and go. We thought, oh, it's gonna be like bagels and danishes and shit. That ain't bad either. But it was actually like Nutri-Grain bars, not Nutri-Grain. What do you call those? The Nature Valley bars, and like shitty ass prepackaged muffins, and make your own oatmeal, and bad coffee. That was the only bad thing, but the people there were wonderful. And so we get this room. It was the only room they had. And get the dogs in there. The dogs are going insane because they're used to this big house. Now they're in this tiny room. And, we live there. And let me tell you, if you think that Wednesday was realistic, here's the thing. Guess what also happened on Wednesday? Another big fucking storm. Another big nor'easter comes through. So now we're at the hotel, and now it's snowing. We get about a foot of snow at the hotel. No idea what's happening at home. And we're checking the outage maps, and my mother has some sort of app on her tablet that can look at it and whatnot. And now they're saying Thursday night, and then Thursday night became Friday night. And let me tell you, I love my parents and everything, but I don't want to spend an entire week stuck in a hotel room with them, especially when it's not a vacation. It's being displaced. We had to evacuate, is what it came. We were displaced from our home. We had to evacuate our home, grab our dogs, and drive 2 hours away and stay at this place. Thankfully, it was a nice place, but, there's no dog run. We gotta walk the dog. I gotta walk the dogs. Most of the time it was me. Sometimes my mom took Gunny out, but usually it was me taking Gibbs out. We're on the 3rd floor, so I can bring him down and then bring him up, and then and then getting them to pee and poop. Oh my God, because they're not used to doing it on the leash. That was a whole thing. And then they got into a rhythm of going, and then the snow comes, and all of a sudden I take Gibbs out, and he's completely scared and won't do anything, won't even move because there's people with shovels and plows, and let me tell you, these 2 boys are so shy. Like they're, and it's hilarious to see how many people see a pit bull and they're scared. And then so many times I'd come across, I'd have Gibbs or Gunny on the leash, and they'd see and be like, oh shit, and I'd be like, don't worry, they're scared of you. They're very shy, especially Gunny. Gunny is just, he's a very shy little boy. And it was funny because the people that worked there were really good about the dogs and everything. Apparently there were a lot of dogs staying there, which made it difficult because every time, like one of these other dogs in another room made a sound, they'd start barking, and then the other dogs would start barking, and we're trying to get some rest. I did not have a single good night's sleep there, and I don't think my parents had a single good night's sleep there. Everybody's emotions start running high. Everybody starts getting frustrated and pissed off again. Friday night, which is last night. It's Saturday night right now. Friday night is when we start hearing about, they're finally working on the area. See, because I was following MedUp on Facebook, and they're talking about the hardest hit areas being Stroudsburg and Easton. And I look at the comments, and everybody's like, but what about Pike County? We got hit hard too, don't you? And then they finally started acknowledging Pike County and realizing that Pike County got hit harder than anybody. And, so think about this. So Friday, now they're projecting for Friday night. We start hearing that they're working on the roads. We actually left the hotel before we had known that we had power. We didn't know. We had no idea. And we left the hotel just because we could not stay there another night. We all wanted to go home. I'm exhausted. My parents are both exhausted. But I'm not only exhausted like they are, but I'm also just physically drained because I'm the one walking the dogs and everything. My father's physically drained because he's getting hit by radiation every day. My mother is a mental wreck, So this is just terrible. I want to go home. And then we're not eating right, because even though we had a room with a kitchen and all this, everybody's too tired to do anything. We're living off like McDonald's and Taco Bell and that kind of shit. So it's rough, and then we're not, my mom, I'm pretty sure she's hypoglycemic. Hold on one second. Everybody wants to text me all of a sudden. Why is everybody, it's 10 in the afternoon, in the evening, and everybody's texting me all of a sudden. Okay, I'm actually going to pause this recording here because everybody's texting me and I got to deal with this. I'll finish the story and we'll end the episode. So we leave and we go, we pack up. We pack up, we get the dogs in the car again. They're going crazy, they don't know what's going on. And we start driving home. It's late at night. It's like, I think we left at about 7, and it's a 2-hour drive, so we didn't get back till 9. Thankfully, by the time we got back, we had power. Actually, we got confirmation from my sister that we had power when we were about halfway back. So that's where I've been. And unfortunately, fortunately, let me give the good news first. Fortunately, there was no damage to the house. There was no trees hit or anything. My sister had a tree that leaned and hit my grandma's house, but it was like just on the porch, and it may not be that big of a deal. We lost a lot of food. We had to throw out a lot of food that was in the fridge. Some of the food in the freezer had to go. Some of it was okay, but a lot of it had to be thrown out, which is a shame. My mother contacted homeowners insurance. Unfortunately, they don't cover the hotel unless there was damage to the house, but the food was covered, so there is that. So we are recouping some of the losses there, but that's where I've been, and that's the ordeal that I went through, and yeah, don't want to go through that again. So I'm actually going to end the episode here. Leave me your questions and comments, and I got some stories to tell you next time, but that's what I've been through, on top of everything else, and I guess it's also kind of an update on my dad, that he's going through radiation. It is affecting him, of course, and he's had to make some dietary changes and things, but he's got a second round of radiation coming up Monday through Friday this coming week, which sucks because on Monday we're supposed to get a third fucking storm, although it's not supposed to be as bad as the first two were, so hopefully we won't lose power or get a foot of snow again. A lot of the projections are saying it's going to be a lot milder, and then it might not even, hit that hard in our area, that it's, we're just going to get kind of the tail end of it. But anyway, I'm going to end the episode here. Yeah, hell of a story. See you guys next time. And uploads will resume on Monday.